All right, so first and foremost, we got my girl Kristen from Captain Mortgage here. She's gonna give you guys a little lender update about what's going on. What's going on?
In Loneland?
In Loneland.
Amy.
Right?
We should script something super. Anyway,
I'm down.
So last time I kind of gave a little synopsis of the guidelines for FHA versus conventional.
Okay.
And this time I kind of want to go over, because we talked about the debt to income ratio. I kind of want to talk to you about the importance of credit scores and how it affects purchase price. So sometimes, you know, if we're estimating for a conventional, you go up to 50% DTI, and you're talking to someone and they say, hey, I make $10,000 a month. Cool. We can go up to $5,000 a month in debt. Fantastic. And then lo and behold, they go to the lender, they get pre-qualified credit. You're kind of already under the assumption that they're going to be able to hit a certain price point. And then if their credit comes in at 580 to 619, it kind of changes everything. So first of all, at that point, we can't go conventional, we have to go FHA. So for FHA, the normal guidelines for 620 and above are, and I'm going to teach you, the normal guidelines are a front end debt to income ratio of 45% and a back end of 55%. With that, oh, that's the ugly 5.
Yeah, they can't see that. So 45%. So tell us what is a front end debt to income ratio? What's the back end debt ratio?
So simple terms, if someone makes $1,000 a month, they can go up to $450 for a mortgage payment.
Okay.
And then they can have $100 worth of liabilities for car payments, credit card payments, installment loans, etc. So if you're under the assumption that this is your guideline and you go to a lender, they get qualified, but they're in that 580 to 619 credit score range, it's going to drop it down. Quick math. Yeah, to 34 and 46%.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what that means is obviously, let's see if I can do like. So if they make $10,000 a month, $3,400. Yeah, that translates, right?
Yeah, if you make $10,000 a month, you could have a $3,400
mortgage payment, but you can only have 46.
Yeah,
this is 120 in other liabilities.
Oof.
1,200. 1,200. That tracks.
Okay, so let me break that down for them a little bit. Does that all make sense to everybody? So like you make $10,000 a month, you can afford a $3,400 payment if your other bills are only $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but my bills are way more than that. Yes, ma'am.
Does that include SMUD, PG&E, gas bill?
That's a fantastic question. No, it doesn't. Okay. So the mortgage payment, they will include the principal and interest, your mortgage insurance, homeowner's insurance. So if that's $80 a month, property taxes, we're going to factor that in. If it's here in Natomas, the flood insurance.
Yeah.
So that $3,400 has to be your entire payment. Whereas if you're over that 620 for FHA, you could go up to, at a $10,000 income, you could go up to 4,500. So it definitely changes the price point that you're looking at. So
and can I just ask, on the back end, that's what they're talking about. The back end is your mortgage plus bills, right?
Yeah.
So your mortgage plus bills, what bills?
Okay, great. Perfect. So bills would be credit card payments. So sometimes people get kind of stuck in, I owe $4,500. Cool. I don't care. What is your monthly payment? $40? Great. Okay. $40 is what we're taking into consideration.
So you're counting the minimum payment that they're making towards that debt.
Yes. Yeah. Anything that you co-signed for. So a lot of people co-sign for someone else's car. If that's a $650 payment, guess what? That's on you. We can exclude it if it's obvious and it's been proven that the other person you've co-signed for has made 1 year payments in their account. That means not once could you have paid for it.
Yeah, and I have done this before. I helped somebody buy a house, and I helped their mom buy a house. The mom had co-signed for a very large car payment, and we just provided statements from his bank account showing that he made all of those payments on time. He actually made a payment late, and we're still able to get it to go through.
Oh, that's awesome.
We wrote a letter of explanation. So there's ways for you to get through this. And so if you ever run into these situations, please call your very resourceful, very solution-oriented coach, and we will push that bad boy through, I swear.
But anyways, it's something to be aware of, because as you're talking to a client, as a lender, we talk to your client when they have whatever, an issue. You talk to them when you're showing them home. You talk to them when you're doing inspections. You have a lot more face-to-face time. So you kind of navigate before getting into contract will help you be a better agent and able to provide more information before, you know, kind of being like, oh, great, we're going to be looking at $500,000 houses. And then, whoops, it's going to be 400. So setting the proper expectations.
Yeah.
At what point would we advise the client to speak to the lender? Because like you mentioned in a previous class, if you're not 100% certain, don't try to explain it and just hand them off to somebody. Like,
if they want to buy a house, they have to talk to a lender first.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't show any homes without.
I don't show homes without a pre-approval unless I know they're good for it.
Okay.
So like I have a client right now. Huh?
Like cash?
I have a client. Okay, I have a client who is renting an apartment right now. He came to me and his family. He's totally game. He's ready to go. His pre-approval is probably going to be around 450. I don't know if he's going to be pre-approved. We do not look at property. Sorry, I don't know if I'm going to waste time with you. I have another client who owns a very large business. His father is extremely wealthy. They have cash in the bank. The pre-approval was not important to me. I've been showing him property. You got to use judgment, right? And so what I like to do is I ask people, oh, what do you do for a living? And then that tells me whether I can move forward or whether I need to be careful. But honestly, at the end of the day, I know very wealthy people that have a really bad credit score.
Yeah.
And they cannot buy a house with a loan. So I need to see that they have cash for the house, right? Because if they don't get approved, then are they going to be cash? Yeah. So use your best judgment. But as a brand new agent, I just made it a rule. All right, the first things first, you're going to meet with me. We're going to go through your needs analysis. And then I'm going to have you get hooked up with my lender after we determine that you are in a position you're ready to buy.
And I'm happy to go over the whys of everything because usually I'll send like an email of like, this is what you qualify for, here's your option, but explaining the whys so that just as a back end knowledge, it's not something you need immediately, but it's something the more that you hear it, it'll get kind of ingrained. And then at some point it's going to be valuable, you know? Right now, probably not valuable to you, but at some point,
it's very valuable. You are very valuable and worthy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in. I love it. Okay, I just want to let everybody know that I bought a house on a 580 credit score. FHA. You know what I'm saying? Good morning.
Christian, okay.
Right here.
Okay, because I have a personal question I want to ask you. I'll ask you later.
Oh, yeah.
In between.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much, Kristen. I appreciate you. All right, you guys. So today we're gonna. Did we get a new clicker?
Yes.
I broke the clicker.
It was working yesterday.
No, they got a new one yesterday.
Oh, it's very soft. Oh, look at
And
that.
there's a
Look at this
laser
bad boy click, you guys. Okay.
There's a laser.
What? Hold on. Is this the red line?
Maybe.
I'm not gonna
I
trust
saw
it.
it yesterday.
Oh! Listen, why did you tell her that? I'm like a cat, you guys. Okay. All right. Have lots of fun. I want to get into how do we go out and find seller leads, but not only that, I really want to talk about how do you win when you have conversations with people that want to sell their home. We talked about value. We talked about what sellers value. And can anybody tell me what sellers value?
Sellers?
Yeah, what do they value? Money.
Getting the most money for their
Getting the most amount of money for their property, right?
The time frame that they want in the area.
The area of the buyer.
Yes.
Sellers want you to sell their home in the time frame they want for the most amount of money possible. That's it. That's all they want. They don't care about anything else. To be honest, they want the most money. So that's gotta be number one. I'm gonna help you get the most amount of money for property. And I am certain when I say it. I think the certainty in my voice is what sets the tone. Did you know that there's this thing called Neuro-Linguistic Programming? And the way that you speak to people is what helps them decide whether or not to believe you. There's studies out there that women tend to speak in an upward slope. So we talk a lot like this, which sounds like a question. And therefore people question us constantly, right? And then have a downward turn. So they say, this is what we're going to do, right? If I said, well, here's what we're going to do, right? So I read about that and where I was going with this. How having conviction in your voice and knowing in yours what you're saying is to be true helps you have a downward turn with your voice. When you have a downward turn with your voice, it's a command. They're called embedded commands. I started using them with my kids. And I'll say things like, it's a question, but it's a downward slope. So I'll say, I think that we should clean your room. You know, there's a lot of stuff lying around, don't you think? And they're like, yeah, right? Does that make sense? I say, does that make sense a lot? Hey, you know, you didn't do your homework, so I'm gonna take the Xbox away. We don't have an Xbox. I'm gonna take TV away from you for this evening. Because you didn't make your homework. Does that make sense? And they're like, yeah. So I started using that with my kids, and it's super funny. I'm waiting for them to one day use it against me.
They will.
They will. They will. So if you go out there and learn about neuro-linguistic programming, the way that you speak to people, the way that your voice influx has a great deal of how you. Next week, I'm going to teach a class on the DISC profile and understanding how to know someone's DISC profile from having a conversation with them, right? And if you can pick out someone's DISC by having a small conversation with them, you can understand how they want to be communicated with. You can understand their underlying needs better, and then you can show up that way for them, because everybody kind of accepts information differently, right?
You should understand their what?
I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
Their personality. Their DISC. Yeah, next week we're going to have a class on the DISC. The DISC is a personality assessment by Tony Robbins. It's 4 letters.
It's an acronym, right?
It's an acronym for each individual personality type. There's 4: driver, influencer, supportive, and the C is calculating.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I will say this: come to that class. Come to that class. It's going to be in the afternoon on Tuesday. And the reason being is that when I talk with someone, I have to know which one of those. I need to figure it out, because I'm a high D. High D stands for driver, right? But we can be steamrolling type of people. Like, I will talk not down to someone, but I'll talk them into something that they don't necessarily want, and they'll agree to things that because I can get them to do that. That's not a good thing. It's not. Because that's how you get fallout in your deals. That's how people are like, well, yeah, I agree to that, but you know, I felt kind of stupid. That's not a good thing, right? Sometimes it can sound uncaring. We're only results driven. If I show up and it's only 10% of the population that's a driver. So, and how am I showing up to the other 90% of the population? Like you know what I mean? Like a bad word.
Like a D word.
Like a D word? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it means it's driver, but it means the D word. Okay, so I had to study this profile of how I showed up. Right? I studied how I showed up, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I showed, where are my challenges? I looked at those. What are my challenges? And then I looked at all the other profiles, and I was like, okay, what do these people each need? And how do I show up to them to make sure that I have that? My seller presentation has a piece for every single type. So that way, when I show up, if it's a high D, I can put all my stuff away, look them in the eye, and say, I'm going to sell your home for the most amount of money for the least amount of time possible, and I'm going to keep the most amount of money in your pocket. What do you say? And they're like, I'm down, let's go, right? Because they're results. And then when I show up for an I, who's an influencer, those people love relationships. They love to talk. If you cut them off and you don't let them speak, they will not work with you. They will not. If you don't develop a personal relationship with them before you talk business, they will not work with you. They won't like you. They'll feel offended. You have to ask them how their mom is doing. How's your mom? How's your mom in this, right? Okay. So as people are supportive, so they give a lot, they're usually very supportive people. They give a lot of support, nurses, admins, any kind of support team. Lots of escrow officers are supportive, right? This supportive personality, when you go on a listing presentation with them, when you talk to a seller, you want to let them know you're going to be there for them. You're going to support them through this process. I have an entire team. I have a photographer who's going to come and take beautiful pictures of the property and make sure that it looks absolutely best. I have a team that is going to make sure our paperwork is Do you see how I'm talking differently than I normally talk, right? This is how I talk to people that need support. Because if I was talking like this, hey, we're going to come out here, we're going to take pictures, we're going to get everything done, don't worry about the paperwork, I'll take care of all that. That's what a D wants. That's what I want. I don't want to talk about it. But a support person needs you to say, hey, I got your back. I ask, do they have a lot of questions? I say, do you have any questions so far? Let me stop and make sure. How do you feel about this? That's a really good one. For I's and S's, how you feel about this is an amazing question, right? D's and I's, or I'm sorry, D's and C's, if you ask them how they feel about it, they're going to look at you like, why are you asking me about my feelings right now? Okay. A C type is calculated. These are accountants, engineers, lots of accountants, lots of engineers. They want numbers and they've already done their research before you got there. You can tell those because they're going to say, I pulled my own comps. I already did my research on the price and this is what I think it should be priced for. And you're like, cool. And when I show up for all my appointments, I have tons of materials on, and it's broken up into pictures. I've got pretty pictures for everybody else. I've got numbers for my C types, right? So knowing all of this has really helped me show up differently for every single client, right? For my buyers, my sellers. You're going to have sellers that are a husband and a wife, and one of them's a C and one of them's an I, right? And you got to figure out, and you got to play to both. So you've got to, so I can help you. If you get a listing, just follow my presentation or follow what I have and take that with you. If you take that with you, you'll be fine. Parm Atwell, she sells 100, what did they sell? Like 152 homes or something like that. She masters the disc. In fact, she takes the disc and she's equal across the board. That's because she has mastered it so much. She knows how to show up equally to everyone. I was like, dang, girl, you're killing it. 150 homes a year, right? Okay, so let's talk about seller leads. How do we find them? Obviously, we're going to lead generate for them. Let's talk about, first, let's talk about understanding their motivation. We're going to talk about qualifying them, pre-qualifying them, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the listing presentation. When we have seller appointments, I'm actually going to do a mock listing presentation for you guys with a more experienced agent, so that way they can give me some pushback, right? So be sure to come to that. It's actually on the 21st. So on the 21st, I think it's a Monday, I'm going to do seller appointments, and I'm going to do a mock listing presentation in here. So we'll make sure that everybody in coaching knows about that. Okay, so can anybody tell me where you think you can find some seller leads?
Church.
Church? Yeah. Where else? Your friends and family? I'm loving it. Your database, right? Everybody that's in your database knows somebody that owns a home. Guaranteed. So you need to reach out to your database and let them know that you are in the business of selling homes. Now, I will say this. I believe in what you put out to the universe will come right back to you. And I believe that very strongly. And I used to be very buyer heavy. My whole career, actually. Most of my career from 2014 and on, very heavy buyers, not a ton of listings. In 2021, I did not have a choice to work buyers because I have this big coaching business. And I hadn't really had something this big before. And it took a lot of my time away from my real estate business. And I was like, God, and the universe, I can't go out of real estate business. I can't just do coaching. I need both. I need you to send me sellers. And then I went out into my life and I looked for sellers. I trained my brain, let's say, to look for sellers. And that year, 90% of my business was sellers. That's amazing. I sold 14 homes. I would have been 15, but I didn't close until 4. I sold 14 homes, and I think 10 of them were listings. So it doesn't really, if people think, oh, I can't list homes. No, you're just telling yourself that you can't list homes. But you can. My first sale was a listing. My second sale was a listing. So you can list homes right now. So if you want to work with sellers, which is a guaranteed paycheck, I don't know if y'all heard, but it's kind of hard to get a buyer and a contract, right? So why are we going after buyers? You can walk outside and slip and fall and catch a buyer. But sellers are a guaranteed paycheck. I know when I put a listing on the market, I'm going to make a lot of money. So I look for listings and I talk to people about it, and it just seems to be coming. At the beginning of this year, no joke, at the beginning of this year, I was doing a little stuff and I was like, okay, I think I can take some buyers. Boom, 4 phone calls within the next month of buyers that want to buy a home. Now I got 2 of them getting pre-qualified and I wrote an offer the other day. Craziness, right? What you put your mind to and what you focus on will expand around you. Keep that in mind when you're calling your database. Say things like, hey, selling your home, like sellers right now are making out. Do you know anybody that's looking to sell their home? They're going to answer that question, right? Of course, they're, oh, by the way, do you know anybody else that's looking to buy? Do that secondary, right? Okay, so call your database, talk to them about your business. This is the daily 10-4. So I'm gonna show you this. You guys probably haven't seen this a lot because we've had a lot of guest speakers in here. This is your daily 10-4. If you can add 10 contacts a day, have 10 conversations a day, I'm not a handwritten note type of girl. I send 10 text messages, right? Text messages, Facebook messages. And if you could if you could preview 10 homes a week, your business would be outstanding. You would cap. You would more than cap. I bet you could make about 250 grand a year if you did this plan 5 days a week, right? I like to take 2 days off. I never do, but I like to. So if you could do this and focus on your 10-4, you will get listings out of this. Yeah.
Previewing homes, are you getting like just vacant homes or
all homes? If it's on the market, you can go preview it. You can set an appointment with the seller and preview that property.
even if it's during the or
Yeah, you can do it during the week. Absolutely. The seller might, yeah, absolutely. Sellers are at work.
Yeah.
And there's usually a lockbox on it. And they're like, okay, go look at it. Yes. Previewing properties is great, right? Not only that, but you walk around the neighborhood a little bit, meet some people, talk to people, just get out there, involve yourself in the real estate market, be the expert, right? All right. The handwritten note thing, again, text message. Did you know that only 13% of emails are open, but 92% of texts are open? I do not care about email anymore. Like, I just don't. And then I talk to a lot of agents and they're making phone calls, I'm like, did you text them when they didn't answer? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you better go back through and text them. People don't want to talk. I'll always want to talk on the phone. I like talking on the phone. I still make the phone calls because I want to get to the people that do want to talk, but I'll shoot them a text after. And I get a lot of responses from that too. So if you're making your phone call and that person's not answering, shoot them a text, okay? All right, let's go back to where we are. Okay, where else do you think you can find sellers?
Like Zillow and
You can't, if they're already on the MLS, then they're already taken.
for sale by owners.
FSBOs? Okay, I really like where you're going. For sell by owners.
FSBOs for sell by owners.
FSBOs for sell by owners. They're people that are trying to sell their own home. Statistically, for sell by owners will wind up netting themselves 82% of the list price. 82%. I get sellers 108% to list price. Remember when we talked about value proposition? Got to know where your value lies, right? So agents on average get sellers 100% to list price. So if the average of the MLS is 100%, but for sell by owners statistically only get 82%, should they be selling it on their own? So I reach out to them and I say, hey, I get it. You want to save a commission. What if I could show you how I can net you 108% list price on your property versus what you're going to get, which is 82%. And they're like, well, I might be interested. We're gonna talk to you, right? Yes.
You said you can get them 100% or 108%, right?
Uh-huh.
So does that go down after they pay the commission fee?
Well, if I get them 100%, yeah. I'm talking getting the purchase price 100%. So if you're a for sale by owner and you put your home,
compared to 82% what they would have sold it themselves.
because my commission's only 6%.
Okay, so that's 94% compared to 82.
Correct. And I let them know that's how I earn my commission from you, right? Okay, so another way for you to get listings is through your open houses. I had a class, and I'll try to look for it. I had a class on how to conduct open houses to generate listings and sellers. The reason being is that if you put an open house sign out, for your buyers are going to show up. They're going to show up. And buyers are great. The listings are guaranteed paychecks. I want to hold an open house and get a listing. So I want to talk to the neighbors. I want to talk to the people in the neighborhood that could potentially sell their home and invite them to the open house. When I was a first-time agent and I would have neighbors come to my open house, I would be pissed. I would be like, why are you coming in here being so nosy? Like, get out and let me get some buyers. And then I was like, I'm kicking out sellers. What am I doing? So I stopped. And now I'm like, neighbors, come on in, right? I'm like, come on in, girl. Let me give you a private tour of the house. Like, let me just treat you like a queen. Because you're going to sell your house. You're going to sell your house one day. And if I treat you like a queen when you come in, I'm probably going to be the agent that's going to help you do that. If I can get your contact information and I can follow up with you in the future, there we go. So at your open houses, if you want to talk more about this, we can reach out to me and I'll let you know what materials do you need to bring, right? What do you need to do? That's a whole class. And then when you're calling your database, you're going to be getting these things called referrals from your sphere, right? But there's another type of referral. Does anybody know what the other type of referral is? Can we refer to each other? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of people think of referrals and they think it's got to be an agent from out of state. I've got to make a relationship with an agent from out of the area who's going to send me referrals. But I'm telling you guys, my relationships with agents around this area have given me this. Because some people don't want to work with them. Right? There's a broker, it's actually my best friend's broker, but before my best friend worked for him, he did a deal with me. I sold a listing and he brought the buyer. And we did that deal. And I think there was even some squirrely stuff at the end, but I showed up with integrity and so did he. And so we built a little friendship off of that. And he owns a brokerage. There's 125 people in this brokerage. And his ex-wife needed to buy a house. He called me. He called me and said, Amy, I trust you. I know you'll do a great job. And that's who I want to refer her to. He could have referred it to somebody within his brokerage easily, right? Maybe he didn't want them talking to his ex-wife, right? So he reached out to me. And then when my best friend needed to become a TC, she randomly applies for this job. My homeboy randomly meets with this guy. And she's like, my best friend's a real estate agent and she's a coach and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what's your best friend's name? And then that helped her get. And now she's doing business and stuff like that too. Anyways, the point is it doesn't have to be out of state. It doesn't even have to be out of the area. I will say this. As an agent, go take classes in the Bay. Go take classes in the Bay. Go take classes up north. Go take classes down south and talk with those agents. Walk in the room and introduce yourself to every single person there and say, I'm in Sacramento. I run that market. If you guys have anybody that's moving to that area, please send them my way. Give them all your cards and take all their cards and build relationships with them. How many people from the Bay Area are moving out here? Why do you think our housing prices are so much? I had at least 3 offers from Bay Area buyers on my camera. Like they're just like anywhere. No, they're anywhere. So referrals are going to be a huge way for you to get listings as well. Okay, so let's talk about qualifying and converting them. If you open up your packet, one second. Let me get the participation guide in the chat. Oh, it is there. All right, the participation guide is in the chat. And if you turn to page 4 of that, oh no, not 4, I'm sorry, I lied. We're going to talk about qualifying and converting seller leads. Okay, on this page, you're going to see it says connect and deep dive. It's page 5, sorry, page 5 of the participation guide. It's right there for you. There's one right there. All right, so questions, y'all. Questions are where it's at. Questions are how I get into deeper conversations with people. Questions are how I get into deeper conversations with you guys in coaching. And it's so funny because I take this coaching class all the time. Make me laugh. Hi, Tay-Tay.
Hello.
Hello, Puppet.
Hello, Puppet.
He's coming in to see my class. Okay, so I'm a coach, right? And I've been coaching for quite some time, and I take this class called Coaching Skills Camp. You guys can ever take this class. It's $350, but you will leave there like I can get anybody to do anything. So the whole class is about asking powerful questions and getting people to lead themselves down the road to self-discovery. And I was like blown away because I've been doing this with my buyers and my sellers for the longest time. And I was taught this by my old mentor. And he said, selling is not telling. In fact, nobody wants to be told. People want to be asked questions and get their opinion, right? And what's people's favorite subject? Themselves, right? So when you're trying to connect with others, telling them is going to put a wall between you and them. You've got to ask them questions about them, and it's going to draw them closer to you, and it's going to help you connect. And so on the screen and in your packet, we've got some really good connecting questions for you to get a little bit deeper with them. So the first one, if you would, please tell me a little bit about your job, life, family. Why do you think that would be important if you're trying to help them sell a home?
Because of where they may need to relocate, if they have children in school, things like that.
Yeah. How many rooms they need, where they're going.
They yard, they are assigned like a smaller.
Yeah. Asking that question is going to help you start coming up with, okay, maybe they're going to look at this kind of stuff. You're kind of going to put a picture together for them. Also, when we talk about our database and how we want it to be built, how we want it to be really an impactful database where we can reach back into it and call those people and ask them about their life, what does this tell you about them? Does it tell you about their life and them? And are they
How to check in with them?
It gives you so much information about how to check in. I'll tell you guys, just because I have a phone conversation with somebody that wants to sell doesn't mean the next day I put their home on market, right? These connecting questions are going to happen, and then you might not list their property for 6 months to a year. But this first conversation, the kind of conversation that you have with them at that point is going to set the stage for you as how you're going to show up. They're going to see how you show up. And if your first conversation with them is telling them, then that's how they're going to assume you're going to show up for the rest, right? So if you can connect with questions, it'll be better. All right, so let's move on. What are you looking for? What do you want to do? Right? I love the what do you want to do thing. I said, so what do you guys want to do? That's like my first, when I sit down for a listing, I'm like, so what do you guys want to do? And then I let them tell me what they want. And when they tell me what they want, then I can write down everything, and I'm like, I can show up that way, right? Don't assume that you know how they want it to go. Like I can sell homes in 7 days. That's like my value proposition. And I said that all the time. I was like, I can sell your home in 7 days. And I had a lady that was like, whoa. I don't know if you're going to be the right agent for me because I don't want my home sold in 7 days. And I was like, stop saying that, Amy. Stop assuming that they want you to sell it very quickly and start asking them, what do you want to do? Right?
It could be a very emotional thing to sell for a family who's had their home 30 years. And then hearing 7 days, they're like, wait, I'm not ready to lose it in 7 days. Like I'm getting that thought, like, no, I'm about to sell my home. I I still need to mentally prepare for this, and I don't want to do this every day.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already had our KPA, and so I suspect that you're a high I, but see how I'm a D, and I'm like results, right? I'm showing up like a D. She's an I, so she's like, she already knows. She's like, well, no, they could love this home, right? So she cares about relationships and all that. I love that, right? So I have to stop myself from being a D quite a bit and stop and step back and say, okay, how do they want? How do they feel about the situation? Where would you like to buy and where is your home located? If they're selling their home, they gotta have somewhere to go. Thank you. They gotta have somewhere to go. Where are they gonna go? If somebody's selling their home out of state, is there gonna be some other questions that we're gonna need to ask them, right? Okay, moving out of state. What does that look like?
Right.
What does that look like for you? What do you want it?
Your furniture.
Yeah, what do you want it to look like?
Right.
I also love that question. What do you want it to look like? Because their expectations might be way off, but I want to know what they want to see happen. Determining their motivation, that's a big one for me because I spend money on every listing that I put on the market. I've got skin in the game just like they do. So I can't be testing the market with my money, right? So determining their motivation, asking them why they're moving is very important, right? And this is a pre-qualifying question, why? If they're like, well, we have to, I got a job transfer, we love those, right? We love those, they have to go. They're not using my marketing to test the market, right? And then you get people, well, we just want to see what we can get. Well, let's dive deeper into that. Do you want to just see what you can get, or are you really looking to move? Why are you looking to get out of your home? So I just start digging a little bit deeper, like, well, what is it about your home that makes you want to see what can happen? And what are you hoping to achieve at the end of it? Just like I said, when, right? When, get a feeling for their timeline. When would you like to do this? Make sure you're not assuming any of this. One thing that you had mentioned is, well, you'll kind of know if they want a big backyard. I have gone so far away from assuming anything that when people say, well, we want a big backyard, I say, okay, cool. What does that look like to you? What does a big backyard mean to you? Because a big backyard to me is like an acre, maybe 2. I grew up on 10 acres in the middle of national forest. Like, that's a big backyard, right? So to me, and then somebody might have lived in an apartment in the Bay Area their entire life, and a big backyard to them is a patio home. And they just want a little space for their doggy to go outside. So you really got to take it all out. Like, this ain't you anymore. This is all about them and what they want. And then obviously you want to assess their expectations. How do you plan to do this? That's mine. What do you want to do? When they say, oh, I'm looking to sell my home and get out of California. I hate California. I've done that so much over the last year. I want to get out of California. Okay. How do you plan to get out of California? Where are you going? What does that look like? I've had clients that are like, well, I'm going to move to Idaho. Okay. Do you have employment out there? Do you have prospects? Because if you're trying to move out of state, if you want to get a loan in that state, you have to have a job in that state. You're not just going to loan you something, right? So these are really important. There's some questions down here right under this on the participant guide. And I want to give you guys about 3 minutes to answer these questions with your own words. And those questions are, how will these connecting questions help you determine how motivated the potential seller is? And then the next question is, what other questions can you use to understand the needs or wants of your seller lead? So you got 3 minutes, and I'm actually going to time it this time, guys. Wow. Okay, about 20 more seconds. What? This cameraman doesn't like me. There we go. All right, I'm gonna pick on my Zoom people because I haven't heard from you very much today. So anybody on Zoom? The first question, can you give me what you wrote down?
I feel like the more descriptive they are with their answers, the more motivated they probably are. So if they don't have good answers, or they have really brief answers, they probably don't know what they're looking for, or they're not that serious yet. But when you can like give really in-depth answers and you've been thinking about it for a while, therefore you're probably more motivated.
I love it, Riley. That's a very insightful observation. Anybody else on Zoom?
Mine was kind of similar. I kind of just said how they answer it. It basically tells you how thorough they thought about the process of selling and whatnot.
Yes, I love that. Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, here in the classroom.
Just put, it will help determine that because the questions will reveal the true need and urgency of it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all on the same page, right? Okay, so now I want to go to the second question. What other questions can you use to understand the needs or wants of a seller lead?
What in your current area do you love or don't like?
Okay.
In your area or even in your home.
Okay.
Help me to determine or narrow it down.
Help you determine why they might be wanting to get out of that home and what they're looking for in the next one. I love that. Anybody else? Paul?
Is there anything that must be included with your new home purchase?
I like that. I like that. What about my Zoom folks? What do you have written down? Silence is so cool. Nothing? Okay. There's lots of questions. I mean, the questions are abounding, right? Like, there's so many questions that you could ask. And I was taught when I was really learning how to sell really well from a mentor, I was taught that I need to ask 3 questions for every answer that I'm given. So if I talk to somebody and I say, tell me about your family a little bit and your job life, and they start talking to me about their kids and they pause, I say, okay, tell me more about that, right? And I get them to dig a little bit deeper and then they tell me a little bit more. I'm like, well, how old are the kids? What are their interests? What are their hobbies, right? And then after I get through 3, I move on to the next one. Okay, you also mentioned this, and this, right? And I go a little bit deeper. We used to actually practice asking questions without responding to the question. So me and him would just sit in the office and he'd ask a question and I'd ask a question and he'd ask a question and I'd ask a question and we would just be doing questions. And it made me get really comfortable not receiving an answer. It got me really comfortable with asking a lot of questions, coming up with questions, being curious. Sometimes we're just not curious enough, right? I always give this analogy. When you were younger, like a teenager, and you were going to leave to go out for the night, what did your parents do?
Where are you going? Who are you with?
Who you going? Where are you going? Who you going with? What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you going? Why are you hanging out with them? That's what I did. Why are you hanging out with them? When are you going to be home?
How you getting here?
How you going? Who's taking you, right? That's the analogy that I catch in my mind. I'm like, all right, I have to be like somebody's mom. When someone comes to me, even my buyers, I act like this. When buyers come to me and they say they want to buy, I'm like, Well, who are you going to buy it with? Is it just you? Where do you want to buy? When do you want to do it? How are you going to buy it? Are you using cash? I always like to do that. You got a bunch of cash? And they're like, no. They feel all flattered though. They feel flattered that I thought they had cash, right? And then somebody that has cash won't feel offended when you're like, do you need a loan? Right? So I take that approach of like, I'm kind of nosy. And I was talking last night about when people give me the thing, well, I'm going to wait to buy. I'm like a mom there too. And I'm like, honey, I care about you. I care about you. I care about your future. I think this might be a decision that you want to think about a little bit more. Let me tell you why, right? Some people will take that and then walk away and be like, oh, well, they don't want to buy. Or I'm like, no, you got to dig a little bit deeper, right? Ask them questions, talk to them, care. All right, so in front of everybody in class, and then let me get it up for you all. In the Ignite toolkit, which all of you should have, if you've ever received the welcome email from me, you have the Ignite toolkit. I'm going to get it for you now too. So nice. And in the Ignite toolkit is a seller lead sheet. Everybody in the classroom, go ahead and look over that. Or not seller lead sheet, a pre-listing questionnaire. Everybody in the class, look over that pre-listing questionnaire. So I know that we said, well, what other questions would you ask? Well, have no fear if you couldn't come up with any, because this sheet will tell you. So let me get into this really quick so I can get it to my Zoom folks.
So Amy, if I downloaded my whole little Ignite toolkit, are you just re-giving me all these papers over?
I am.
Oh.
I am.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so for everybody in Zoom, I just put the pre-listing questionnaire in the chat for you. But again, it's in your Ignite toolkit. And this is all the questions that you need or should be asking. And it's actually, I use it as a script. So if somebody says, you know, Amy, I'm actually thinking about selling my home, I start with it and I go, oh, that's awesome. I'm excited about that. Do you have about 5 minutes for me to go over preliminary questions with you right now? Yeah, no, that's fine. All right, cool. The number one question on here is, how did you hear about me? Now, this is assuming that you don't already know that. If you know, because it's your Uncle Steve, then you don't need to ask that question. Number two, where are you moving? So last night I got a text message. This is actually somber, but last night I got a text message from my friend and she said, we're selling the house. And I was like, awesome, where are you moving? This is my first question. And she's like, unfortunately, we're separating, getting a divorce. Oh yeah. So there was a phone call made, right? Am I gonna have a text conversation with her about that? I called my friend and I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And I did not show up like an agent that's like, when do you want to get the house on the market? I said, why? Are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure that this isn't something that might change? I'm not trying to make a buck off of my friend's
impulsive.
Yeah, right? I want you guys to think about this. So, and we've gone through that. I'm taking her out to dinner tonight, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But there's going to be situations that come up like that, right? But my first question, y'all, was, where are you moving to? and then she elaborated. All right. What's motivating you to move there? How soon do you have to be there? If I sell your home in the next 30 days, is that going to be a problem for you? What would happen if your home did not sell? Ooh, that's the one right there.
On this market.
Well, that's not true. We just looked at properties last night because I'm trying to help people win with buyers, right? And a lot of these buyers are out there looking for brand new homes. And it's like, dang, I thought about it. I'm like, my parents never bought a brand new home. Every home they ever bought was orange Formica countertops and barn doors that opened up to the kitchen and stuff like that. And then they redid it while they lived there. And then they made a bunch of money off of it. And then they went and did it again.
For a brand new home, you don't have to worry about somebody bidding against.
With a brand new home, yes, you do.
Really?
New builds are going for $100,000 over asking price, no contingencies, and they have $50.
That's in some areas, not everywhere.
I don't know where that's not happening. If you know where that's not happening, please tell me. I got buyers.
Madeira.
Madeira. Yeah, girl. Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's Madeira. California.
That's the only place.
That's the only place. But I don't have a bunch of buyers trying to move to Madeira. I have them all trying to move to Rancho, Roseville, El Grove, whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been having conversations with them about, you got to step outside the box and think. I mean, I could put granite countertops in that house for $700. Like, we don't have, you're not going to spend an arm and a leg to redo this place. I can get it done for this amount of money. Like, let's think about this, right? And so Taylor, every home sells 45 days on the market.
They priced it too high.
Priced it too high. I was like, go give them what they want and ask for all your closing costs back. Right? Okay. So what happens if your home doesn't sell? Are you going to have a problem? How much do you want to list your home for?
Because it's always emotional for the seller.
Yes. And how much do you want to list your home for? My favorite answer is, well, isn't that what you're for? And I'm like, you know, that's so funny. You would think that it is, but the contract actually states that you pick the price. I'm only here to give you data. So I would like to give you all the data, and then me and you are going to talk about it, and then you're going to pick the price. I love when they pick the price, because when they're wrong, it's not my fault, right? But they pick the price. And they know, they've been on Zillow, they know. How much do you owe on the property? Very important. Can't sell a property if you owe too much. You got to pay my commission, got to pay closing costs. You got to have at least 7% difference. And then also, if you need to buy another house and you don't make any money off the sale, what are you going to do? Right? I send them a packet of information. I actually send them my whole listing presentation ahead of time and let them sleep on it. So I say, I'll be sending you a packet of information. Will you take a few minutes to review it? And when you have a listing and you need that packet, come to me and we will make it together. It'll be customized to have all your information on it. That's why we have to I have to show you how to make it. You send them that packet. I send it digitally through email, and I say, I'm going to send this to your email. Will you take some time to look over it? It's actually going to make our listing appointment go that much faster. And people want that. Nobody wants you in their house for 2.5 hours, no matter how much you think they love you and that they want to talk to you. They don't. They don't. Okay, so then I say, do you have any questions for me? Will all decision makers be there when we meet? Very important. I've sat through an entire listing presentation with this lady, and right as I was about to leave, her husband walked in with the groceries. And I lost that listing because I didn't check ahead of time to make sure that the husband was going to be there to listen to my wonderful presentation. And do you think that they're going to give the presentation to their spouse like you are? No. They're going to be like, I don't know. I don't really like the way her mouth moves. You know what I mean? Like, don't do it to yourself. So then I say, just so you know, our meeting's going to be between this time and this time. I look forward to meeting you at that time. Let me know if anything changes. Right? So this pre-listing questionnaire is important to set the stage. The other thing that you have in front of you. Oh, yeah, you're good. Okay, so now we have pre-qualified them. Sorry, I don't need the other thing in front of you. I apologize. That'll come up. I want you guys to know that there is a hierarchy of leads. Not every lead is created equal in terms of every lead is a good lead. Every lead will eventually lead you to business. If you have a phone number and an email, it should go into your database. You should be dripping on it and you should be calling it and texting it until they tell you to never do it again. The reason being is that you never know when they're going to need your services. And as long as you stay in that background, hitting them up, hitting them up, hitting them up, they're going to hear your name, remember your name, and one day they're going to say, to sell about a house, hey, we should call that girl that keeps bothering us all the time. Cool. And that's happened to me. I followed up with somebody for 2 years. 2 years. No answer. Called me up. Hey, Amy, sorry I never answered your call. Just busy. But we're looking to sell the house and we want you to do it. Yeah. And then I sold that house. And then the neighbor called me and she sold the house for me, right? So you never know what it could lead to. But there is a hierarchy. Not everybody is going to be your A client. And I really like to talk to new agents about this because I get a lot of people that say, I got a lead. I'm so excited, I got a lead. And I'm like, okay, cool. Are they pre-approved? No. Awesome. How long have they been at their job? 6 months. Whew. Okay. We're going to have some trouble here, right? That's a C buyer. They can't do anything for quite some time. Okay, so let's talk about what's an A, B, and C seller. Any A client is somebody that's able, ready, and willing to do business with you in the next 0 to 14 days. I actually extend this a little bit to how much we stay in contact. If my seller is definitely going to be listing their home with me, like they're like, I'm doing it, I'm painting, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, that's an A client to me. They're getting ready. They might be a month out, but they're getting ready. So this 14 days is arbitrary. It's based off of how you feel. So use your intuition. B is able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 15 to 60 days. Those are my people that are like, hey, Amy, we're going to list our home in May. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I need to follow up with this person in a month and just check in and say, hey, I'm just checking in on you. You need anything from me? You still looking at May? Are we good? Right? Just this last listing I sold, I had a listing in Cameron Park. Great listing. Seller ignored my phone calls and my text messages for 3 weeks. I met with him, I had other properties with him, still ignored my phone call for 3 weeks, ignored my text messages for follow-up. I hit him up again. My mind was like, give up, Amy. Give up. Somebody else came in. You're done. You effed it up, whatever. And then I was like, no, that's dumb. And I sent a text, hey, I'm just checking in again, man. Are we still good for this time? Amy, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. So we tell ourselves things, and we are negative. Human beings have a negative bias. It's a protective thing. It's our lizard brain trying to protect us. Don't listen to it. It's illogical. So my B people, 15 to 60 days. It's usually like 30 to 60 days. If they're past a month, I'm going to follow up with them a little bit less. And then C is my able, ready, and willing to do business in 61 days or more. Able, ready, and willing. I want you guys to understand this. Able means that they have a home to sell. They have enough money to sell the home, meaning that they have enough equity to actually sell it, pay your fees, all the fees, and buy another one, or just get out of it and do whatever they want to do. Like my sellers that I sold the Cameron Park, they're going into an RV and they're going to travel the country. They don't need to buy another home. So, but I did such a great job for them that they said when we moved to Texas, because they're ending up in Texas, when we get to Texas, we're calling you, we're going to get an agent through you so that you get paid on that too. I was like, I love you. So, ready? They're able to sell the home. They're ready to sell the home. So there's not like a graduation that needs to happen. There's not a job transfer that needs to happen. Like if they're looking for a job transfer, they have to put in for that. They have to get that approved. You gotta think about this a little bit deeper. Like they're not going to be selling their home until they get that approval done. And then when's the job start in the other place? We can't put a home sell in 7 days. Most of them. So we can't put your home on the market when you don't get to transfer to Wyoming until June. If we do that, you're homeless. Where are you going to live? Right? So they have to be able, ready, they have to be ready and willing. The willing is the most important part. And we ask questions to determine, are they willing in this, right? Why do you want to sell your home? What happens if you don't sell your home? That's the willing part. Are they willing to sell their home? A person who believes their home is worth $500,000 more than it is not willing to sell their home because it's not legitimate. That's why I ask people, what do you want to sell your home for? What price do you want to get for your home? And the reason being is that if I know that prices for that area, they got a home in North Highlands, and I'm like, all right, prices are around 400, maybe 450, maybe big house. Yeah, maybe usually around 400. And they come at me with a 450, 500 mark. Are they willing? And they won't budge. We have to. Ooh, okay. Well, do I really want to waste my time with that? I don't. I'll tell you, I don't. Right? Okay. So converting them is asking for the appointment. And I kind of want to talk about, we talked about that. the listing presentation. So there's a couple listing presentations for you. I use Cloud CMA on the MLS. There's a comparables report that I use as a listing presentation. Cloud CMA on the MLS. It's free of charge to you. I love it. I use it every time. It creates a website for me. It creates a PDF for me. It creates a slideshow for me. And it takes me all of 3 minutes. There was some customization that I had to do in the beginning. Pretty easy, right? This on the screen is Command. KW Command has I think it's 6 or 7 different listing presentations that you can use. You can customize it one time and then just slip the new information into there, right? Now, the listing presentation, we're going to go over that. We have an entire class on that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about this other sheet that's in front of you, and then let me put it into the chat. So in your Ignite toolkit, not only do you have the seller, the pre-listing questionnaire, but you've also got this little thing called I have a listing, now what? Stuff. I've got a listing, now what? Get me. Copy here. Want to know how you can provide, want to know what you need to do to provide value to a seller? Read that list. Read this list. This is exactly what you're going to do to sell a property. And so this is why, this will tell you a lot of what you bring to the table. All of this list of things that you're going to do. This isn't even to get it into contract. This is just to put the listing on the market and do it right. So your team is your transaction coordinator and your escrow officer. We got a team. I have a team. You have a team. Enhanced transactions right here in the office, or if you're in Yuba and if you're Fair Oaks and Sacramento, we've got enhanced transactions with Esperanza. If you're in Yuba, you have a TC in your office too. So you've got an escrow officer and a TC. You're going to put it on the MLS. It's going to be routed out to everybody. You're going to schedule a professional photographer to take photos and video. You're going to schedule any preliminary inspections if the seller wants to do that. Install a sign, lock boxes, review a showing schedule with them, track the MLS, review offers when they're received with them. Once all offer information has been collected, you're going to review it and vet it for them. You're going to send responses for them, complete confirmation of acceptance, make sure that the offer gets accepted properly. You're going to provide seller disclosures, collect buyer's inspections, follow up with the lender. I mean, this is what you use to say, this is what I do to earn my fee. This is all the work that I'm going to do that you, Mr. Seller, you do not have to do this because you're hiring for it. And that's a long list. And then in your Ignite toolkit, there's another list. That other list is I'm in escrow, now what? Go look at that. That's about 4 to 5 pages. Bring that to your listing appointment and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this list right here is what I'm going to do to list your home. And this list is everything I'm going to do during the escrow. This is what I do. This is what I do for you to earn my fee. You're like showing them. They're not going to read through it. They might later, but they're not going to read through it right then and there. But they're going to see the lines of information and they're going to be like, wow, you do a lot, right? So taking powerful information like this on with you on your appointment can be amazing for conversion because it's going to show them the value that you do bring. Also, I want you to read through this list because when you get a seller lead, you're going to wonder to yourself, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, it's right here. It tells you what to do. Now it's going to give you confidence so you can say, I know how to list property. So when somebody says, hey, Rachel, I'm interested in listing my house. Are you going to feel a little bit better now talking to them? Yeah, right? You're going to be able to say, oh, I know what to do. I got a whole list. And I just check off all the lists. Okay, cool. Anybody have any questions or anything that they want to add? Any ahas? Okay, cool. Tomorrow, we are going to be going over how to write an offer to get accepted. We're going over the residential purchase agreement. We're going over how to fill it out in person at the office and on Zoom. If you come in person at the office, you can bring your computer so you can learn how to log into zip forms. If you don't bring your computer, I will print out one for you to fill out. But we're going to go over how to fill it out, and I'm going to talk to you about the terms that you need to be writing in order to get it accepted. All right, guys, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have an amazing